Hello, Andrew.
Hi, thanks for inviting me for the conversation.
Thank you very much for coming. Uh, Dear friends, I would like to welcome Andrew Bърнс on this short interview. He is coming to Bulgaria next month in June, and he will run two retreats, women's cycle and men's cycle, for expanding sexuality. I would like to say that I know Andrew since now how many, 6, 7 years. I went to his female cycle for expanding sexuality in 2018 in Sofia, and I completely fell in love with his work. So now it's the second time I will be his host and his organizer in Bulgaria. There are a few questions people, especially men, are concerned about the event that will take place from 27 till 30th of June. And I would like to ask you the first one. You're teaching about the abstinent life cycle. What is that, and how would you address concerns of people who believe that abstaining from ejaculation might be harmful for their health of the prostate and in general?
Yeah, that's a really important question. And the first thing to know is that I'm not actually teaching about abstinence from ejaculation. What I'm talking about is breaking the cycle of addiction to ejaculation, which is a bit different. I think it's healthy sometimes to ejaculate, but it's knowing when and how is it going to support us and our energy levels and also our relationships with our intimate partners. So on the retreat, we're going to be addressing men's addiction to ejaculation and how they can start to create a lifestyle that is about ejaculatory choice. So being very conscious about when and how they ejaculate rather than just never ejaculating, which I don't think is healthy either. So I think that, there's one extreme, which is ejaculating all of the time. And then there's the other extreme of never ejaculating. And for me, somewhere in the middle is this place of harmony. And that's what we're going to be exploring on the retreat, is how can we find that harmony so that we can let go of our need to ejaculate out of habit all the time and move into a very energetic experience that we'll be able to then access our intuition as a way to guide us as to when it's healthy to ejaculate and when it's not healthy to ejaculate.
Nicely said. What one who's already abstaining from ejaculation or sex might learn more about from the abstinent life cycle that you're teaching?
So many, many years ago, when I was 24, I decided to break the addiction to my ejaculation. And so I went on a 2-year journey with this. At that time, there was no internet, there wasn't any courses or anything that you could go and do. So I was doing it by my intuition. And looking back on that time, I discovered that I had a sexual cycle, that men actually have a sexual cycle that I call the natural rhythm to ejaculation. So just like women have a sexual cycle, men also do, but because of our addiction to ejaculation, it often dissolves our ability to be aware of our sexual cycle. And so one of the things that we'll be exploring on the retreat, other than breaking our addiction to ejaculation, is how can we become aware of our natural cycle? Because it's our natural cycle that will then guide us into knowing when it's healthy to ejaculate and when it's not healthy to ejaculate. So for the men that have already been exploring abstinence from ejaculation, we're going to be going into something that perhaps they're not aware of in how to discover their natural cycle, which will then lead them into a very healthy place around their sexuality and around ejaculation.
Can you tell us a few more words about the energy orgasm of the whole body and what are the benefits of it?
So, one of the things that I hear a lot around the world is that men's sexuality is very simple, or it's very primal. They just need to have sex, they just need to ejaculate and they're happy. But whenever I hear people talking about men's sexuality in that way, I like to ask them this question. Do you know that men can have full body multiple energy orgasms without ejaculating? And most people are shocked and surprised when I suggest that men can have those experiences. But in fact, they can have those experiences once they know how to cultivate and circulate their sexual energy in the way that supports the awakening of every cell in their body to pleasure. So the first step is breaking our addiction to ejaculation. The next step is becoming aware and in tune with the natural rhythm of our sexual cycle so that it becomes our guidance mechanism for understanding when it's healthy to ejaculate and when it's not healthy to ejaculate. Once we develop that conscious choice around ejaculation, then we can start cultivating and circulating our sexual energy in the way that the tantric textbooks talk about. And by doing that, we can start to raise our vibrational frequency into what I call the orgasmic frequency. And once we move our body, every cell in our body, into this orgasmic frequency, then every cell in our body actually becomes a chakra. And every cell in our body can begin to vibrate at that orgasmic frequency. Now, once we're able to get into that level of expanded orgasmic state, then it becomes a platform for activating dormant parts of our brains. See, in everyday life, most people are not using their brain to its maximum capacity. So these very vital and spiritual aspects of our brain start shutting down. But it's through these tantric practices, through cultivating and circulating our sexual energy into these expanded orgasmic states, that we can start to reawaken these dormant parts of our brains. And so we can become more intelligent, more intuitive, more empathic, more compassionate, more sensitive, more aware. We can start to reactivate our extrasensory awareness abilities. Many, many things are possible from a spiritual and energetic perspective. But even just as important as that is that it can start to really deepen and enrich our intimate relationships, because it takes our focus from our sexuality just being used for reproduction or for intimacy or for stress release or for entertainment, but into a lovemaking practice that we can share with our partners to explore a deep, deep tantric meditation and support each other to raise our vibrational frequency and to expand consciousness. So there's so many reasons and motivations for wanting to explore this, but unless you actually go into the experience yourself and have that felt sense experience of what I'm talking about, it's very difficult to really get it. But if you're able to move into that experience and keep practicing, you're going to keep on awakening this aspect of yourself that for most people, unfortunately, has shut down due to living in this world that's not as natural as it used to be.
Yeah. So many benefits there are. Can you tell us more about the dysfunctions that might be impacting men's life, but they're sometimes not even aware of them?
I think that our capacity to experience pleasure, and there's been studies about the average American male in a marriage, and they're having sex for about 7 minutes. And so what that does is it starts to train our nervous system to only have a very small capacity for experiencing pleasure. Now, from a tantric perspective, we need to strengthen our nervous system so that we can tolerate large amounts of pleasure, because going into these expanded orgasmic states that we can then use as a platform for going into the tantric meditations that I was just talking about, we really need to strengthen our nervous system. And so most men are not aware that they've lost their capacity for pleasure. And so that's often why they rely on ejaculation to try and experience pleasure. But unfortunately, that's a very quick experience. There's a buildup of tension, there's an ejaculation for a number of seconds, and then there's a collapse, lose erection, lose desire for a period of time. So most men are not aware that there is this massive capacity that they have the potential to experience within themselves. And so one of the things that I'll be doing on the retreat is really supporting men to know what is the practices that they need to do to start to shift their ability and to start to strengthen their nervous system and their capacity for experiencing pleasure.
Yeah. And there are a few more questions left. What ways are you teaching beneficial for people with a partner, and what ways for people without a partner?
So I believe that it's very important that from a tantric perspective, we need to be interdependent. And what I mean by that is that we need to be able to experience or have these experiences within ourselves primarily. And so some of the practices that we're going to be doing is learning how to cultivate and circulate sexual energy in our own bodies and strengthen our nervous system within our own bodies. Because for me, a tantric lovemaking experience is about sharing ourselves with each other, not about being dependent on each other. And so we need to know how to create these experiences within our own bodies and then explore creating these experiences together with our intimate partner. And so we can transform our sexual experiences with our partners into very deep and beautiful and rich tantric lovemaking rituals that become a spiritual practice. So we can actually support each other in our intimate relationship to expand consciousness together. That's a really beautiful thing.
And regarding to this, some of the people who would like to attend the event have some obstructions with their nakedness. And one says being naked in front of other men is beyond my limits. Will it interfere with the practice?
Not at all, because there's nothing on the retreat that you have to do. And anything that I say as the facilitator is a suggestion or an option for you to consider. And so each person on the retreat gets to determine their level of involvement in everything that we do. So the retreat isn't necessarily about getting naked or doing anything like that. The retreat is really about going deep within yourself and becoming really aware of what's important to you with regards to your sexual relationship with yourself and your sexual relationship with your intimate partner. So whether or not you remove clothing or not is irrelevant, and there's no need for you to get naked. And I have many people that come on retreats that never take off their clothes, but yet they still have very deep and powerful experiences.
What preparations do you suggest, you recommend one should have before the retreat?
My suggestion is to start coming off sugar and caffeine at least a few days before the retreat begins. Try and get a good amount of sleep each night for at least a few days before the retreat begins. And also start coming off meat as well, because on the retreat, we're going to be having really beautiful, yummy vegan food, because I found that that really supports the experience that we're going to be going through during the retreat. So if they can come off sugar, caffeine, alcohol, and meat at least 2 or 3 to 4 days before the retreat, that would be really great.
And in this regard, what is your take on nutrition? Some people consider vegan diet healthy. Some tantric teachings are even quite strict on that. other consider that's unhealthy. So there are various methods. Yeah. So could you please?
So there's lots of different opinions about it. And my retreats are vegan because I found that for the particular types of processes, meditations, and exercises that we're doing, a vegan diet without sugar, without caffeine is really, really supportive of that. And I want to support people to have the maximum experience on the retreats. And so that's why I have the vegan diet. I'm personally a vegan. I haven't eaten meat since 1997. The last time I ate meat was in Kathmandu in Nepal, way back then. But I'm not one of these people that says everyone should be a particular way. I think we need to trust our intuition and let our bodies guide us on our journey with regards to everything, not just diet and nutrition, but everything in life. So I welcome people to go by their own intuition when it comes to these things. However, the retreat is vegan because I found that really gives people the best experience.
Thank you very much. I think is enough. Your information was very, very helpful and useful. We're going to stop here and waiting for you to come to Bulgaria.
Nice to share. Looking forward to coming to Bulgaria.
Thank you, Andrew.